Yes, welcome to this talk today. I thought I'd give you a little introduction about who I am, about what I do, to those of you who don't know me. So my name is Melanie, and I'm living in Germany, in Bonn, not in Berlin. I think that the email mentioned Berlin, but that is just the time zone. I'm actually living in Bonn, and Bonn is far to the west. And let me see, I wanted to share my location with you. So can you see the map?
hmm
So this here, where this M is, this is where I am. You can see the border of Germany here, the black line. And now I'm zooming out. So more of Europe is visible now. There is Europe, here's Britain and Spain, and then moving west. Lots of water, really. And here are you guys, string theory yarn. I don't know about you, but after all these years online, it still fascinates me how easy we can span these distances nowadays. So yes, as I said, I'm living in Bonn. And to those of you who have never heard of the city before, Bonn used to be capital when my country was divided, when there was East Germany and there was West Germany. And Berlin is located in the east, and for that, it could not be capital of the entire country. So they were like desperate in the need of another capital, and somehow it ended up to be Bonn. And so when I was raised, when I was born and I grew up, the city had a very political phase. There were always meetings, there was the parliament, there were many embassies here in the city. And then when they made Berlin capital again, that was in 91, a lot of people moved away. So you could really notice lots of empty houses, all the embassies left, and our population dropped. I don't know, we lost something like 50,000 people who were living here. But since then, we have recuperated from that. Many people moved here again because it's really a nice city. And in return for the loss, the city received many subventions by the state, and they invested these very well. So we have a very big cultural life here in my city. There is even an opera. So, I mean, there is a bit more than 300,000 people living here. So it's not like a huge metropolis. But we have an opera. We have many theaters, like the big one, and then many small independent ones. There are musical halls, so there is many museums, so you can really entertain and educate yourself here. And I'm, yeah, very, very happy to live here. Um, Other than that, I'm a knitwear designer, so that means I design and publish knitting patterns, and I'm doing that for more than 10 years already. I actually started knitting when my youngest daughter was born. So shortly after she was born, when she had, I don't know, when she was 2, 3 months old, something like that, I had that urge or that desire to create something with my hands that would keep her warm and protected. Before that, the desire didn't exist for me. I knew how to knit because my mom had taught me when I was a child, and when I was a teenager, I once knitted a shawl, but it never, I don't know, the interest didn't last for a long time. So, but then when my daughter was there, I had this like, oh my God, I need a blanket, I need a sweater, I need a hat for her. So I picked up my knitting needles, and that was in 2009. Um, I quickly discovered Ravelry and YouTube. So I taught myself, like, how do I knit two together? What is a yarn over? There were gorgeous videos that could answer all my knitting questions. And yeah, I discovered Ravelry, and I learned that there are knitting patterns, which it didn't occur to me first that there was something like a knitting pattern. But I got some patterns, I knitted them, and right from the start, I always changed little things here and there. So I never really sticked close to the pattern. It was more like a guideline. And as I kept knitting and I became more and more confident, I changed more and more things until that point when I eventually said, okay, so if if I change so many details in a knitting pattern, I might just as well start from scratch and do it my way, and so that my ideas are right there in the pattern. So that's what I did, and I wrote the patterns down. I don't know why. It occurred to me somehow. I shared them on Ravelry, and people actually knitted them. That was a big surprise for me, and also a great motivation, and that really kept me going. And that's how it all started. I'm originally from IT, so I have an IT education, and I worked several years in the field. But then when my daughter arrived, I went on parental leave for a year. We have a generous parental leave here in Germany, so we can take a year off and we can get back to our work after a year, so that the workspace is safe. That's decent compensation throughout that year. And we had 3 kids right after each other, like 3 kids in 3 years. So that means I had a rather extended parental leave, and that gave me the chance to, yeah, really, I mean, aside from having babies, but when they were in bed, for example, in the evening time, that was time for me. And yeah, so that's how my second career started. I just get notified my internet connection is a bit unstable, so please let me know if you lose my, yeah, if the image is not good, or if there is a lag. Yes. Anyway, so as I just said, that's how it all came together. And since then, I'm basically doing the same thing. So I'm writing patterns, I'm putting them out on Ravelry and on other platforms. Um, I have written a handful of books in these past years. I've worked together with many magazines and yarn companies. I developed yarn lines for them. I'm teaching workshops. I have traveled a lot in these past years, also to the States. I've never been to Illinois, but in East Coast, West Coast, and the Middle East, and different places, and many places here in Europe also. And yeah, that is my story in a nutshell. So short summary of how it all happened. It was not really my plan to become a knitwear designer. So it was really a natural, I don't know, an organic transition in a way. And it's a really big difference to my old job in IT. So I do get a lot of benefits from having the IT background, because I'm still working at the computer most of the day. Um, but it's a whole different field. Like, this creativity didn't exist in my former job, and I wasn't so passionate about it either. It was more like, yeah, you have to work something so that you can pay all the bills. And it wasn't until I started to work freelance with my ideas that I learned that, oh, work is actually something good. It's something that I enjoy. It's something I can get passionate about. And before, that wasn't really the case. So yeah, my oldest daughter is now 15 years old. So that's a long time. She has now my size, so we have the same height. And yeah, it all started when she was a little baby, so that's a long way. All right, so today I would like to talk a bit about shawls. And some people have commented in the chat that they have made shawls. For example, 5,190 miles, or The Joker and the Thief, Rock My Shawl Together Apart. So I have some shawls here with me, and I will present them to you, tell a bit about the construction, about the background, about the yarn. Um, Most of these shawls are rather big, so I can hold them up, but it's hard to spot the details. So I rather switch to sharing my computer screen with you, because it's just easier to see on photos. And the first shape that I would like to talk about is the good old triangle. And I'm sure you all know Ravelry, or at least have heard of Ravelry. And there is a pattern search feature. And a few years ago, if you just put shawl into that pattern search feature, the one construction that came up was by far the most popular one, was the top-down triangular shawl. Most of these shawls were really classy. So like, for example, a lacy stockinette body and then a very fine and delicate lace panel at the border. So that was the typical top-down triangular shawl. And since then, these shawls have changed quite a bit. There are many more modern ones that play with color and that are a bit, well, more casual than these opera or very elegant lacy shawls. But the construction is exactly the same. And I have one shawl that I would like to show to you, and it is this one. As you can see, it's a triangle. And as you can see, it's pretty big. It does not really fit on the computer screen, but it has the cast on here in the center of the upper edge. And then there are increases along the upper edge of the shawl and also here around the spine. The spine is the quite visible line that is running down all the way from the center of the top edge to the bottom tip down here. And the name of the shawl is Slowly Drifting. And yeah, the interesting thing about it is that colorful border, of course. It uses a gradient set by Miss Babs. It's a fingering weight yarn. And let me just share my screen with you. As I said, so this is the triangle. You can get a better idea of it here in the center. There is the cast on, and then the bind off is all along that lower border, or the two lower edges, you could say, which appear a bit more orange here on the screen. And shawls that use this construction, as I said, they have increases along the upper edge and also here to both sides of this spine. And they typically work with 4 or 6 or sometimes even 8 stitches that you increase every right side and wrong side row. So the stitch count grows really fast. And in the end, you have a very high number of stitches. Like, I don't remember the exact number for Slowly Drifting, but it's easily more than 500 because you have to bind off stitches along 2 edges. So this is something to keep in mind. If you're not a friend of these very long rows, then this construction, this top-down classic triangle construction, is maybe not something that you will enjoy. What I do enjoy on Ravelry is the project list. I'm sure you all know that feature, so you can click on the project and then you can see what many other people around the globe did, and especially for shawls that use many different colorways. I find it fascinating to see what ideas they get and yeah, where they take a pattern, and this is something very rewarding for me as a designer to see. And sometimes I see shawls or projects that I don't like and I say, oh, I wouldn't have put together these colors, but that is just my personal preference. And then sometimes I see combinations and I'm like, oh my God, that looks so good. I like this way more than my original sample. So both, I know both sides of it, let's say like that. Yeah, and speaking about different colors and different color combinations, we had that little question in the poll just a few minutes ago. Do you swatch for shawls? And I think 6 out of 20 something. Yeah, 6 out of 20 something people said yes. And that is a number that surprises me because oftentimes people say, for shawls. Why do I need to swatch for shawls? I don't even swatch for sweaters. Well, when we talk about swatching, oftentimes we think about needle size, right? So we want to determine the right needle size so that our fabric has the correct tension to make sure that the finished garment fits us. That's what most people associate with swatching. And it's super important to swatch to find out the needle size if you're knitting a garment, because you want to make sure these shoulders are in place. For a shawl, it's not that important. Like if it's 10 centimeter larger or smaller, really, who cares? It will fit you very well. It will still be wearable. So it's not much of a tragedy if your tension is a bit looser or tighter than the one that the designer got. But there are so many other reasons why swatching for shawls is a great idea. And I would like to start with one very obvious one, let's say it like that. I will show you 3 swatches now, and they are exactly the same. Like they are using the same yarns, the same colorways, same needle size, same pattern. The only thing that distinguishes them is the order of the colorways, so color placement really. And so I hope it is visible enough. Let's take a look. So these are 3 little swatches. There is a stripy section and there is a lacy section, and they all use 3 colors. And as I said, the only thing that's different is the placement of the color. And I don't know about you, but I find it really fascinating how different they appear. And this is just a tiny piece of fabric. Imagine the difference on a shawl, like on a big area of fabric. It really changes the character and the appearance of the shawl. So I would like to remind you of the why it is good to swatch for shawls, because this color placement is really deciding about the character of your finished piece. And for example, when we start a new project and we have more than one color, oftentimes we go by gut feeling. No, it's like we don't think about it so much. We just start and do what our feeling tells us. Well, many shawls start with an inner section and then you move outwards, and then in the end you have the border. And usually what we want to highlight in a shawl is the border. It's not like where the tiny cast-on was or this uninteresting middle part. Usually the feature that we show is the border, but that one is knitted last. And I think oftentimes when we start a project and go by gut feeling, we tend to start with our favorite color first because, oh, we're so crazy about that color, so we want to cast on. But that is actually the one that is not that visible. I mean, of course, it depends on the project, right? But oftentimes these shawls that are knit from the center out, we will see some of these as we move on from here. So that is one reason why swatching for shawls is a good idea. Also, the next one, Janet and Beth, you're working in a yarn store. I'm sure you have some variegated yarns in your shop, and I'm sure your customers know that feeling of having that variegated skein in your view and falling in love with it instantly, and then you need to take it home and you're so excited about it, and then you start knitting and it's like, oh, it looks different to what I had expected. That is because the variegated yarn, it's hard to predict how it will actually look on the fabric. And I think here swatching is also a great idea because you want to make sure that the pattern you chose, I mean the stitch pattern that you chose, is doable, or not doable, is that the yarn you want to work with lets this stitch pattern shine. Like if you have a heavily variegated yarn and then you're working on a cable pattern or so, a lot of this detail work might get lost in the color mix. So this is another reason why swatching also for shawls is a really good idea. And yeah, just keep that in mind. I actually really enjoy swatching. That it has not always been like that, but it grew on me in all these past years. And for example, what I really like doing, I knit mini shawls, like tiny little versions of yeah, of shawls, just to get an idea about the fabric and, as I said, the color placement and how does it all come together. So yeah, do me a favor and keep that in mind. And maybe for your next shawl project, You'll make a tiny swatch. We'll see. All right, so let's move on. I want to talk a bit more about triangle shawls, but moving on to different shawl constructions. And as I said, this top-down triangle shawl has been very popular for many years. But then something like, I don't know, I want to say 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that, another construction started to become very popular. And I would say up to today, this is by far the most popular shawl construction that we see nowadays. And it's the asymmetrical triangular shawl. Asymmetrical means if you draw a center line and you fold both halves over each other, they are not identical. Maybe in shape, but surely not in pattern. So it's not like one side is a reflection of the other one. And it is, I think there are two reasons why this shawl shape is so popular. And yeah, let's see why that is. I have an example here. It is the Big Easy shawl, because it's big and it's easy and it's an homage to, what is that city? It's Memphis, it's Montreal. Is it Memphis?
New Orleans. New
Orleans.
Orleans. Okay, yeah, I know it had something to do with music, so it was New Orleans. All right, so yeah, let me first show you the shawl, the Big Easy. And as you can see, it's not symmetrical. Like this side has more bright color. This is the darker side. So if we fold them over each other, it's not that one is a reflection of the other. These asymmetrical shawls have a cast on at one of the both upper tips. So this one starts here with very few stitches. And then we have increases along the upper edge. There are decreases here along the lower edge. But all in all, the number of increases is higher than the number of decreases. So the stitch count grows, but it grows very slowly and very steadily. We're adding 1 or maximum 2 stitches every right side or wrong side row. Remember, in the previous, you could easily add 4, 5, 6, up to 8 stitches. So stitch count grows very quickly. Here it grows very steadily. As you can see, the rows get longer, but yeah, in a very gentle way. And then there is some color work, some stripes, some naps, and then in the end, you bind off. Let me switch to share my screen once again. Yes, this is the Big Easy shawl, exact same one that we just saw. And now you can see what I mean with highlighting that border feature. This pink row, this dotted line is along the border, and it's very visible when you wear a shawl like this. The fabric lies openly on it. The same here. This is the exact same shawl, just in a different color combination. But again, you can see that this orange, yeah, dotted border is very visible and very prominent. And this is what we like. We want to draw the eye onto this border feature. We don't want them to see like the garter stitch part where nothing is going on, really. No, it's like we put all this work into the creating that beautiful border. So this is what we want everyone to see. Yes, here's another beautiful color version. So this is one example of the asymmetrical triangular shawl. I have another one that uses the very same construction, but has a very different appearance. And it is the Beachy Keen pattern. There are many stripes. as you can see, and some texture going on. Oh, this is again a gradient kit by Miss Babs. I really like her gradient kits, and I've done quite some patterns for them. This, as I said, is also an asymmetrical triangular shawl. So once again, we have the cast on here. We have increases here along the upper edge, decreases here. All in all, the rate of increases is higher than the rate of decreases. So here you can see how these rows are getting longer. And yeah, more and more colors coming into play. By the way, I think I made a swatch for this shawl. I can't seem to find it right now. Ah, here, yes. So as I said, I like these mini versions of shawls. Sometimes, as you can see, I don't even weave in these ends, but it's just really to give me an idea of how these colors come together. Does the stitch pattern work out? Do I like the overall appearance? And if yes, then I go with it. It's much better to discard an idea based on a small swatch than to like knit oodles and oodles of time, really, and then in the end not to be happy with your end result. Yes, I'm Beachy Keen. Again, I'm sharing my screen with you. Yes, the Beachy Keen pattern. And again, you can see all these different color versions are really beautiful. And yeah, they really give me ideas. This is my original version. And I'm using a little trick here to make it more interesting, and that is the switch of the background color. You can see that the striping remains the same throughout the entire shawl, but then the only thing that changes here is, yeah, a different background color, and that really adds a lot of, I don't know, a very interesting element to the shawl, I would say. So if you're planning a project in the future that uses one background color and one or more contrasting colors, consider that switch of the background color from maybe. So that might add an unexpected and surprising element to your project. All right, so that pattern is Beachy Keen. And I have another asymmetrical shawl that I would like to show to you. Again, it uses the very same construction, but this is a one-colored one. And so the thing that I want to demonstrate is that this construction is also great for textured patterns that that work with only one color. Oh, I still swatched for this shawl, although it uses just one color. That is my tiny swatch, and as you can see, I didn't even bind it off. I just pulled the needle out and left it as is, just to show it in workshops, really. And this was just a swatch to make sure whether the construction works. So let me see, let me find the cast on. The cast on is here at this tip. And then we are adding stitches along one, adding stitches here, removing stitches here, overall adding more stitches than we remove. Yeah, it's the same story, so the stitch count grows slowly. And that is the finished shawl. So as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than the tiny swatch, and that pattern unfolds in a very beautiful way. It's such an interesting texture, I think. But the construction is exactly the same. So we have the cast on here. Here you can see it much better than on the swatch. So this is where the increases are. This is where the decreases are. Yes. The yarn I used for this shawl is by John Arben. Oh, the name of the shawl is Rainshine, by the way. And let me switch to sharing some pictures of it. Yes, that is the Rainshine shawl. And again, I enjoy browsing the different color versions that my test knitters did, or anyone else that made the shawl. The yarn that I used for my version is from John Arben. Maybe you heard about the yarn company. They produce their very own yarns. So they are an original yarn mill in Great Britain. And yeah, they are known for producing British yarns. And they have quite the character. Like, they are not what you imagine as a super soft yarn for babies or so. No, they really have some hand and yeah, what some people would call scratchiness, maybe. I love it, I have to admit. So I like it when a yarn has some, yeah, character, really. And not all of the yarns are like that. For example, the one I used for my Wonderwall shawl, we will see that one later, is way softer. But this one for Rainshine definitely has some hand to it. Yeah. For example, also, would swatching be a good idea for this one? Yes, sure, because this shawl relies on stitch definition. So if you are using a yarn that doesn't have a lot of stitch definition, then a lot of the work would just get lost. A lot of the work that you put into creating this shawl. So I would suggest to make a little swatch. But I will stop now talking about swatches. So enough said about swatches. Yes, that is the Rainshine pattern. Remember in the beginning, I said that these asymmetrical triangular shawls are very popular for two reasons. I think one reason is that the stitch count grows very slowly and very steadily. And in the end, you only have to bind off stitches along one of the edges and not along both of the lower edges, because that one edge is created automatically as you knit. So most of my asymmetrical triangular shawls, they have a final stitch count of something between 240 and 280. And that number is so much lower than 600 on your needles. And I think that is something that most knitters enjoy, not having this huge number of stitches to work through, because it can really feel like work then. Yeah, I think that is one reason. And then the other reason, really, what I said about displaying that feature that you put along the border of the shawl. Let's take a look once more, because we will soon switch to a different construction that behaves a bit differently when worn. So this is the Big Easy shawl. We saw that in the beginning. And when I want to put it on, I would just take one corner, put it around my neck like this. And then just wrap the rest around. And you can see it did not take me a lot of time now. It was not very difficult, but still this border feature is super visible. Like it's lying super nicely on the chest, and everyone can see how much work you put into creating this beautiful border. Now, when we move on to a different shawl shape, and this is my Wonderwall shawl now. Oh, first I want to show you the swatch. That was my swatch. So I chose colors on a computer screen for this. No, that is not even true. No, I had a shade card. Actually, I had a shade card. The, um, the sample of each color was just one thread. So it was just like a very small amount of yarn they put into that shade card. So it was still a bit hard to decide, like, will they look good together or not? So I ordered them, the yarn arrived. I was pretty happy with them, but to make sure, I swatched a bit and I was super happy with how they came together. Also with that background color, which wasn't too boring, but still let these other colors shine like a good canvas. And so I decided to go for it. And the entire shawl is what looks like this. So you can see this is not a triangle, right? This is what we call an elongated semicircle or half circle. We have a cast on in the center of the upper edge here. And then all we do is add stitches along at the beginning and at the end of a row. So both of these upper borders. And so the stitch count, again, same as in the top-down triangles, the stitch count grows really fast, like 6, 7, even 8 stitches per right side and wrong side row. And yeah, then the final shape is this very long semicircle. And towards the end, this color border starts. And here, by the way, on the edges here, at this point, I just stopped with the increases. So you can see that this entire border is worked without any increases. It's just one long plain border from one end to the other. And then here it stops. Right. So now I would like to show you second reason why the asymmetrical triangular shawls are so popular, because I said like they display so openly, you can see the pattern so well. If you put them on like this, like if you wrap them around your neck, which is the way that I really like to wear my shawls. But if I do this very same thing with this with this elongated semicircular shawl, sorry. So I take one edge or one corner, I put it around my neck like this, and then I just start wrapping. You can see that it does not, it's even the wrong side showing now, yeah? And I can try to make the right side show, but still there is so much other fabric, and it's a bit hard to move it out. It displays here, like you can see that here on both ends that come down, but around the neck, all the work that you put into creating this color or this colored border is not really showing. Can you relate? Does this make any sense? But this, once again, it happens on how you like to wear and style your shawls. For example, here in Germany, most houses don't have any air condition because it's not really necessary, right? Our summers are not that hot, and it's not a common thing to add AC to your house, other than in the States, I've heard. So we don't in summertime, yeah, we don't have this thing that you are coming from a very cool place and then you are going out and it's like, oh my God, it's so hot. And then you are entering a building and it's very cool again. We don't have that here. But I heard that it's in the States, and that for that reason there is the office shawl that you have at work, for example, when you have to switch buildings or something like that. And an office shawl should be easy to put on and quick to put on, because yeah, you don't like you're changing temperature zones more than here, so you want to have something easy. And these office shawls, what you often do is you just put them around your neck, and that is just to protect the shoulders and keep you warm. And if you wear a shawl like this, like this, and you have an elongated semicircular shawl, it's a perfect way to wear and style that one, because that way all this border feature is very visible and looks really great. So it's really a matter of your personal preference. How do you like to wear and style your shawls? Are more person, if so, then either shape is great. But if you like to wrap them around your neck, I would recommend either the top-down triangle or the asymmetrical triangle. Right. There is one more shawl that I would like to show you. It is using the very same construction as Wonderwall. So it's also this elongated semicircular shawl, but it has a whole different touch to it. It's way more elegant, way more classical, but the very same construction. So you also have a cast on here at the center of the upper edge at this point, and then you're adding stitches here along the upper edge. And then same thing as in Wonderwall, I just stopped with the increases at one end and added this lacy border. It's, I would say, the easiest shawl construction, probably, because yeah, you don't really have to think too much. Choose a very easy border to knit. This one was a bit more complicated with some lace and texture and twisted stitches, but you could choose one that is as easy as the one in Wonderwall, and you still get a very, very beautiful result. The name of this shawl is Caress My Soul, and yes, you will find all of them on Ravelry. All right, there is one more shawl shape that I would like to talk about, and that is one that does not get as much love as it should get. And it's the good old rectangular shawl. I don't know if you've made one. Many people, when they think of a rectangular shawl, they think of a scarf. Like a rectangular shawl is basically a scarf, no? But there is a little difference because it needs more width. It has more width than a shawl has. And you need to know that, well, why do we knit shawls? We knit shawls because most of the time we want to wear them, right? So they should be wearable. That should be the number one point in a shawl. It should be wearable, and then yes, it should also look nice. But if it just looks nice and it's not wearable at all, then it was not really worth knitting the piece. So I think this wearability is very important. And the thing that decides about wearability on a shawl, it's the length of the upper edge. So what we call the wingspan of a shawl. If that is too short and you wrap your shawl like this, but then both ends are so short that they come off somewhere like here and they constantly fall over your shoulders and you need to, I don't know, do things to keep the shawl in place all day. That is not a joy. It's not a pleasure. So you need to have a certain wingspan to achieve that wearability. And the same is true for the rectangular shawl. Just keep in mind that when you're talking about a rectangle and you draw a diagonal line from the upper right edge to the lower left edge, then that will result in two triangles, right? So that is maybe helping you to understand that in order to make a rectangular shawl that has a good size so that you have a good wearability, you need to invest twice the amount of time in comparison to a triangular shawl, twice the amount of yarn. So that is twice the money also. And also towards the end, you hate your project because you've really had enough of it. It's so many stitches. It's so much knitting. These last rows are really, really tedious, but it pays off. I promise you, the rectangular shawl, if you haven't made one, give it a try. There's so much more, they offer so many more variations in terms of wearability than a triangular shawl or a semicircular shawl. And I have one project here with me that it is not yet published, but it just went into test knitting. If you follow me on Instagram and you've seen my yesterday's post, then you've already seen this one. It's a very big rectangular shawl. it's worked from one short edge all the way to the opposite short edge. And as you can see, it has some lace pattern on both corners and then just some texture here in the middle. And now what makes these rectangular shawls so wearable? It's all the different styling options that you have. And if you're interested, a while ago, I made a video and you will find that on YouTube. I'm just putting the link in the chat for you. There is the link. It's about how to wear a rectangular shawl. And so what most people do when they first try a rectangular shawl is they do this. And actually, this one has enough fluff because it has mohair, so it looks good. Yeah, because the yarn has some stand, it has some dimension, it's not so flat. But if you have like a yarn that has no mohair, the fabric falls flat somehow, and I think it does not look very good. Also because the ends are maybe too short, and yeah, it's also not that interesting really to wear the shawl like this. There is one little trick that I would like to mention. It's how I like to wear my rectangular shawls. So what I do is I locate one corner. So let's just take this corner of the short edge, and then I put it, voilà. I put it on my chest like this so that it looks like a triangle. And then I take the rest of the shawl and I just wrap it. And I keep wrapping until this other corner. And for this, you need the length, really. You need the wingspan. So you have both of these corners overlapping here. And the shawl, it almost looks like a triangular shawl, like this. I think the computer screen is too small to capture this. Let me switch to sharing pictures instead. For example, yes, that's what I mean. So you can see that both of these corners are overlapping, and just seeing that picture, you would probably not think that it's a rectangular shawl, because it really resembles a triangular shawl with the top at the in the middle of the chest, really. It's just one of the ways that you can wear and style them, and you will see more if you watch that video that I just mentioned and that I just put into the chat. Right, okay, so we have a few minutes left, and I would just like to introduce some projects that I've been working on that are not yet published, that will only be published in the future, or that are still on my needles. And the first one is another asymmetrical triangular shawl, and it will be published in 2025 in a magazine. So I'm not really allowed to show pictures online up front, but I thought I'd give you a little glimpse. It's called Trustful, and it's big. It's a big one. Yes. So this is the shawl. Again, an asymmetrical triangle, and it has some
mosaic, Melanie.
Yes, that is a mosaic shawl. So it's mainly garter stitch, but then you have that mosaic section here, and there's another mosaic section here, more towards the beginning of the shawl. And again, so let me just put that on very quickly. This is a big shawl, so I'm wrapping this more than once. I'm wrapping this twice, or maybe even 3 times. Yeah, I think I should wrap it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And then again, I mean, I'm wearing a striped shirt now. This is really not something that I would wear if I if I was to put on that shawl. So I think the stripes take away a bit of the shawl, but here you can see that this entire mosaic section displays very nicely and is very easy to showcase. So this is a reason, again, why these asymmetrical triangles are so popular. So that is Trustful, and it will come out in, I think, fall 2025, so a year from here, a year from now, but still. And
how many how many designs do you typically have active at a time?
yeah, 4 or 5, 4 or 5 maybe. There is different stages that a design can be in. For example, I have all my patterns knitted by knitters out there, and I don't like to stress them in test knitting, so I give them always a generous time frame of something like, I don't know, 6 weeks for a sweater or so. And of course, in these 6 weeks, I'm working on other projects, and they might then be still in concept stage, or maybe even on the needles, or maybe in tech editing, because all my patterns are tech edited also. So it's hard to say. They are, I don't know. I'm slowly moving through them, and once I have one finished, there is usually already another one queuing in to be next.
So for your designs, where do they usually start as far as, do you think of a concept, or is it the yarn that steers it, or what's
yarn.
typical?
It's the yarn, obviously, because remember what I said about swatching. So I want to design patterns that really make a yarn shine and that get the best out of a given yarn. So it makes no sense for me to start with an idea and then try to search a yarn that works with that idea. For me, it's way more logical to start with the yarn and then look at the yarn and determine what characteristics does it have and what kind of pattern would show it best. Like, would it be good for color work or for cable work? Or yeah, that is my approach. And then I swatch. Yeah. And then when I like the swatch, I'm diving into the math. So like what type of design, garment or shawl or accessory or whatsoever. And then talking about shawls, like what construction should it get? Should it be, also is a good fit together with the stitch pattern that I chose? Because I don't want to write patterns that are 35 pages long just to explain things work out. It needs to be a match of choosing an attractive pattern that lets the yarn shine, but also that I can trace in a way that's concise and clear and relatively short, and yeah, to still be a pleasure for knitters out there, because I think you shall enjoy the project, so enjoy the knitting, but also enjoy the finished object. That is something that's very important for me.
Well, you had
Yes.
mentioned math and clarity in your answer, and we did have a question about your roadmaps. If you could talk for just a moment about your roadmaps.
Yes, the roadmaps, they are something new, and I'm so happy that you asked about them, because usually I forgot about them. But the roadmaps are print. So a road is printable text. It's like a PS for your knitting. You know that when you are working on a project and then the doorbell rings and you need to run off, and then you come back and it's like, oh my God, where was I now? In which row? And Or maybe even worse, you put that project in your knitting basket for a year or so, and then you come back and you're like totally lost. Like, where do I need to start now, and what do I need to do? With a roadmap, you can keep track of where you are in that pattern, row by row, and it's really, you can tick off. And Chad Lewis is a teacher at a cancer center in Toronto, and he approached me and telling me that he was giving classes for cancer patients and that he needed easy patterns so that people who struggle with their concentration due to chemotherapy, that's what we had in mind, can still work on a project. And because of that, we developed the row maps, because we wanted to be more inclusive and we wanted to enable people to knit even if they struggle with their concentration. As I said, we had on mind people that are undergoing chemotherapy, but it turned out that there are many more people out there who benefit from the row maps. For example, people let us know that they are in grief right now, or they're having ADHD, ADHD, ADHS, we call it in German, yeah. Or they have insomnia, they get enough sleep at night, so they struggle with their concentration. Also, a woman reached out and said she has toddlers. So that is also a perfect reason to struggle with your concentration. So we've had lots of positive feedback for the row maps. And the row maps are included for free in my patterns. So not all of my patterns have a row map, but there is a bundle on Ravelry. Let me dig out the link for you. And then in that bundle, you can see which of my patterns have a row map. And there is no extra cost for that. So I charge the very same price that I'm charging for all of my patterns, but you get that row map on top, and you can just download it, you can print it, and then you can use that as your knitting GPS. Right. Yeah, the row maps. I love the row map idea. I'm so happy that we are doing this. Yeah.
Okay. And I have two other questions. One was related to the design that's in test knitting right now, and that's what publication is it going to be in? Are you able to say?
This mosaic shawl. This
Yes.
one. Yeah. So the question is what publication that will be.
Yeah. Is that going to be on your website, or is that in a book, or?
No, that it will be part of the Line magazine. The Line magazine, the Finnish knitting magazine. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And then the other is I know a book, Knit is for Power. Congratulations on being part of that. There is serious interest, though, as to whether it will be released in English. Are you aware of the plan on that?
I know. And my mouth is hurting already from saying it to my publisher a million times that we need to have an English version, but they are deaf on their ear somehow. It is really, they are only having experience in the German market, and they already, that I have other books. I have them here. Like I just released this book on sweaters, or book on shawls, and book on colorwork shawls. So they are bilingual. Like there is one column in English and one column in German. But this one, the sweaters book, it just came out 4 weeks ago, but it's not available on the American market because the publisher says like, sorry, that's too complicated for us. But there's good news. There will be an English version of sweaters published next spring, and that will be available on the American market. So I'm not advertising this one too heavily because I know that some people will be disappointed because it's so hard to obtain in the States right now. But in spring, the English-only version will come out. So for the Knit is for Power book, it's the same thing with the publisher, just that there isn't even an English version of it. So anyway, Knit is for Power is a book that I wrote together with 13 other women. And we talk about, so they are from the yarn industry. They are designers, they are podcasters, they are writers, a whole variety of people. Many of them are designers though. And we tell our story why knitting helped us go through a hard time in our life. So did knitting help us? And yes, how? If yes, then how? Or did we find comfort in knitting? Did we find distraction? Did we benefit from the repetition or whatever it was? And there is knitting patterns in the book. There is the personal stories in the book. And yeah, there is also a scientist talking about what happens in your brain when you knit. So it is really a very cool project, also a very personal one, because there are all these personal stories in the book. And the knitting patterns obviously have something to do with that. So they have background story. And yeah, I really wish I could tell you more on the availability, but so far that is not to be seen. If you have interest in that book, express your interest to the publisher. That is all that I can offer right now. You will find them on Instagram as Fresh Verlag, so you can message them, or better, leave comments. Leave comments that are seen publicly. And then I have that hope that every little drop of input or feedback will help to having that English version eventually. That would be a dream come true for me. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I will be hopping on Instagram later for just that purpose then.
Thank you. You have my support. You have my support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're getting close on time, and so I have one more question for you, and that's, as a designer, what has surprised you about the worldwide knitting community after you got into design?
Well, what surprised me? I guess when I started out as a designer, as a very new designer, I didn't even dare to call myself a designer back then because I was just knitting stuff. I did not expect that I would find so many friends in the knitting industry. I think that is what surprised me most. I had more this approach of, yes, I design patterns and then people will knit them and this is my hobby, or maybe one day it will be my job and that will be it. But the reality was that I found, well, some of the best friends that I'm having in my life through knitting. And that was not something that I expected up front. It happened, and it's also, I guess, I mean, now in retrospect, I think it's typical of the knitting scene because we are, in general, knitters are good people. We knit because we make things for others, and we knit because we care about others. And I think there are many good knitters out there, and that's what's making our community so nice. So it's really easy to find friends in the knitting industry, but that was not obvious to me. That was something I learned, and it was something very good to learn. And yeah, maybe that was the thing that surprised me the most.
Okay, well, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you so very much, Melanie, for your talk and your insights on your designs and the different things that you think about in your process, and also for showing us a few new ways to wear some shapes that I know the rectangular one, I had never approached it that way. So I thoroughly enjoy that. And
That makes
it
me
has been
very
my pleasure to host you. So thank you so much. And Fan Club, thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
Yes, thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Melanie.
Yes.
This is fabulous.
Thanks, Melanie.
Oh,
Beth,
have a
Beth,
wonderful evening. Everyone, a wonderful day. And if you want to stay in touch with me, I have a newsletter to sign up to. I have a very active group on Ravelry, and you can find me on my Instagram. So these are great ways to stay up to date. And I would love to see you there. And until then, thank you so much for being with me tonight, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will swatch for your next shawl, and I hope that you will make a rectangular shawl in your life if you haven't yet, so at one point. All right, with that, I'm saying bye bye. Take care, and
Thank you again.
thank you.